Nightcrawler. Now, teleportation on its own is a very, very fascinating superpower to me. I mean, as a person who's a huge fan of speedsters, the Flash, Quicksilver, all these guys, Metro Man, the concept of teleportation is also very attractive to me for the same reasons that super speed is. You're getting from point A to point B in a short amount of time. And what better way of accomplishing this feat than to teleport? I mean, technically speaking, if you're a speedster, you're just really running from here to here. You're just really fast, so it kind of almost looks like instant transmission. But teleportation is the purest form of that. You're literally going from point A to point B, and that's your superpower, without having to run said distance in a quick amount of time. And in comic books, animes, there's a lot of people who can teleport per se, but no other person really embodies this ability, in my opinion, than Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler, of course, is an X-Men, and his origins are fascinating as well, because it turns out he's a German guy. He used to be a part of the circus, and after tragedy hit, he lost like a close friend of his. He decided to become a superhero, become a part of the X-Men. He's very religious. He's a strong Catholic, and he's an all-round likable individual. Now, we have to talk about his abilities because just like Cyclops, they kind of have a stupid origin, okay? And I'm a huge fan of Cyclops. His abilities are really cool. He's like Superman, but with only one ability of Superman's. And in theory, being able to shoot lasers out of your eyes is really cool. But when I think of the lasers, I think of like a hot burning, like cutting, but with like heat, extreme heat. Turns out Cyclops' abilities, his laser beams aren't like that at all. In fact, instead of just cutting stuff and being like a hot laser, his beams are more of a concussive force, meaning it's like a really strong hit from an object, like a punch, or maybe closer to like getting hit by a car. That in itself is bizarre, but wait until you find out where these beams come from and how they manifest themselves from his eyeballs. Apparently, I don't know how I normally used to think lasers would come out of your eyes. I never really thought about it like that. I assumed you could just focus energy out of your eyes. But apparently Cyclops' eyeballs are a window to a different dimension, and these beams basically come from this dimension and they come out of his eyes, which are the windows from said dimension. Yes, weird, but okay. This is also the same with Nightcrawler. Now, you're gonna have to bear with me if you didn't know this knowledge beforehand, because I thought it was very strange. But apparently his abilities come from another dimension as well. It's called the brimstone dimension. Now, how exactly does he teleport from point A to point B? Well, therein lies the problem. He doesn't teleport from point A to point B. Turns out he teleports from point A. There is a middle B, and then C is his original destination. I'll explain more. So if he wants to go, I don't know, to the end of the driveway, right? He's in the beginning of the driveway. That's point A. He wants to go to the end of the driveway, which is point B for now. Turns out he first has to take a sort of pit stop into the brimstone dimension. So that would be the new point B, and then the end of the driveway would be point C now. So he would go from point A, the beginning of the driveway, to the brimstone dimension B, and then from the brimstone dimension, he would then go on to the end of the driveway, his original destination, point C. If that isn't crazy enough, wouldn't you believe that, he doesn't even know that the brimstone dimension exists? As far as he's concerned, he only goes from the beginning of the driveway to the end of the driveway. He is not even aware that he's taken a pit stop in the brimstone dimension. In fact, his stay at the brimstone dimension is so brief that he has never even known that he does this. I don't know why they have to overcomplicate all this, but they do, and that's exactly how he teleports. Now, you might be wondering, I've mentioned the word brimstone so many times. If you're anything like me, you did not know what brimstone meant. What is brimstone? So I googled brimstone. Apparently, I don't know if this is how they meant it, but brimstone is like another word for sulfur. It's like sulfur or something. And so every time he teleports, there's a bit of gas, right? That's like gas from the brimstone dimension, which is sulfur. So it probably smells like sulfur. And what does sulfur also smell like? Rotten eggs. So presumably every time he teleports, he leaves remnants of the brimstone dimension, which probably smell like rotten eggs. It's kind of like cutting a fart right before you leave a room. That fart is gonna linger a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Even though you're gone. So, and now he actually does this a lot. Teleports a lot, he spams it. So I would hate to be in the same room as Nightcrawler when he's teleporting because it would probably smell horrific. Now, as far as his teleportation abilities and distance, in the beginning he was very limited to how far he can go. He does have to keep in mind that he has to be able to visualize where he's teleporting, although later on he would be able to go long distances, even places that he has never laid eyes on. The only reason why he has to do that for real is because he has to make sure that he doesn't teleport into solid matter. You know what I'm saying? He can easily teleport himself into a wall or tree and he would die. So he has to be very careful about where he lands and his destination. He would later on get a buff and he would be able to teleport like a maximum of like 8,000 miles, which is very far. That's like one continent to another farther continent away. Thousands of miles away he can teleport. That's actually pretty insane. As you also know, he can teleport people with him, so if he's like touching you, he can teleport you. This can actually be very taxing on his body. However, the weight or amount of people that he can teleport is still a mystery, although he has been able to amplify this as his abilities get stronger. Interesting fact, every time he teleports, he gets a little exhausted because, you know, it's exhausting. However, he's used to it, but the people he teleports to also get exhausted from this teleportation. So when he's fighting someone and they like grab him and he's like teleporting with them, he's done this a couple times, they also get exhausted, so he can kind of use that as an ability. He teleports you, he's basically using up all your energy stores, your chakra, if you want to think about it like that. He's draining your chakra every time he teleports with you, so that can also be like a tactic that he uses. Another one of his abilities that he's got these suction discs on his hands and feet, which allow him to climb up vertical surfaces, walls, kind of like Spider-Man, except, you know, Spider-Man uses a different mechanism when it comes to climbing up walls. You know, you've seen that scene where they zoom in on his fingertips and you can see the little hairlines, the hairs. He has suction cups. His tail is pretty strong too. It's kind of like an elephant's trunk. Have you ever seen an elephant use their trunk? The dexterity is actually pretty impressive, and his tail is strong enough to hold his body up when he's hanging, and also strong enough to lift other people up. So it's very strong. He kind of uses it as like a fifth limb, which is also very cool. He can even like throw stuff with it, you know what I'm saying? He's got all the other run-of-the-mill abilities, you know what I'm saying? He's limber, flexible. He was in the circus, so that also plays a part in his fighting abilities. He's got great night vision, Nightcrawler. It would make sense for him to have great night vision, you know what I'm saying? And now I will talk to you about another weirder facts that I found out while doing my research on Nightcrawler and his origins. So when I was watching X-Men, I believe it was First Class, Days of Future Past, one of those, the one where they show Professor X and Magneto young, you know, they had Magneto as Eric Fassbender. The one about the Cold War. You'll remember that one of the plots was, you know, Magneto was trying to get revenge on the man who killed his mother, Sebastian Shaw. By the way, Sebastian Shaw, pretty cool abilities, I must say. I think that I would have liked to see more of him, but that's besides the point. You remember he killed his mom. Great scene, by the way, the whole Auschwitz. Was it Auschwitz? Something like that. One of those concentration camps that Eric Lencher was in as a child. All that was great. I'd love to see Magneto's origin. The fact that they made him like a Jew in the Holocaust. Awesome. Sebastian Shaw kills his mom. Eric grows up, tries to get revenge on the man who killed his mother because he loved his mother. But one of Sebastian Shaw's henchmen who always caught my eye was Azazel. He was a red, demon-looking guy who could teleport too, but for some reason he looked cooler than Nightcrawler in my opinion. Maybe it was because he's red, maybe it's because he's walking around with a suit, maybe it was because he didn't really have that many lines, he was quiet and mysterious. But I was like, who is that guy? Why does he resemble Nightcrawler? Just red, he has the same abilities. Well, turns out Azazel is Nightcrawler's father. That was a shock to me. Not as big of a shock as finding out who his mother is. His mother is Mystique, which was weird for me because, you know, Mystique is played by Jennifer Lawrence, who is beautiful, and I can't imagine her being a mother or whatever, but apparently in the comics, Nightcrawler's mom is Mystique. Two powerful mutant parents. You would think he would have crazy powers, but he's not even as powerful as his father. I would assume he would have been overpowered having two very powerful mutant parents. But yeah, I think the story goes, you know what I'm saying? Azazel seduced Mystique. got her pregnant, and then the baby came out looking demonic, so Mystique couldn't raise him, so he was given away. Then he was circus, yada yada. But that's his origin. His mother is Mystique, his father is Azazel, who has some more lore to him I'd like to get into one of these days. He's very faithfully, passionately Catholic. His abilities are very bizarre, and their origins are, but okay. Yeah, Nightcrawler, it's been your boy.